What's going on, guys? Black Scout Survival, and today we're going to be going over Bushcraft Basics, and this is going to be a series I'm going to do every now and again. And basically I'm just going to go over the basic, bushcrafting stuff. And today we're going to be talking about knife use and safety, because we have, subscribers of all levels of experience. So I like to touch, advanced stuff and down all the way to the very beginner, the person's just coming into survival and bushcraft. So number one on the list of knife use and safety is always keep your knife sharp. A sharp knife is much safer than a dull knife. I'm sure a lot of you have heard that before. But the reason behind that is because with a dull knife you have to exert much more force. And if you do slip or make a bad move, you're going to send that blade deep into you or into someone else. So always keep it sharp. Always have a way to maintain your blade. And that's just survival smartness anyway, or bushcraft smartness, is always have a way to keep that blade sharp. A dull knife ain't gonna do a lot for you. Rule number two is to keep that knife sheathed. Anytime it's not in use. I see a lot of times, even I do it at times whenever I'm busy doing stuff, is to sit your blade down on the ground while you're moving around, and then you got an exposed blade and you could potentially harm yourself with it. Another thing I see a lot of people doing is walking with their blade in their hand, and if you fall down, all these roots and stuff like that in the forest, things in your way, you can send that knife into you. And depending on how far you are in the backcountry, hiking or whatever, it could be fatal, especially if you're by yourself and no one can go get help for you. So always keep that knife in a sheath anytime it's not in use. The other thing is something that's often overlooked, is folding knives. When that knife is not being used, this is my multi-tool, keep that thing closed. Don't just leave exposed blades out. Rule number three is to always make sure to always cut away from yourself. So always cut away, going away from yourself. Do not come back towards yourself. There's so many ways that you can manipulate a cut that you should never have to cut coming towards yourself. And if you do cut towards yourself, make sure that always have a brace. So if I'm cutting, you see my arms bracing right there. So I'm not going to cut into myself. I'm going to stop. Rule number four is to always make sure no one's within arm's reach of you, because while you are cutting, you could send that blade into someone else. So always make sure no one's within arm reach of you. So rule number five is whenever you're making deep cuts, always use a lever cut. So deep cuts require a lot of force. So two cuts you can use is, one is the chest lever, where you sink that blade into your ribs facing away from you. And basically the knife remains pretty much static while you're making those cuts. So basically you're only manipulating the piece of wood you're cutting. Just like that. The next cut is the knee lever, where you brace your wrist against your knee and just bring and manipulate the wood and not the knife, instead of forcing large amounts of force like that. Rule number six, we'll go ahead and go straight into, is avoid the triangle of death. The triangle of death is anything from the waist or crotch area down to the knees. That forms a triangle. The reason why is you have very serious arteries here that if you do cut, that you could die within a few minutes. And I actually had a buddy of mine that cut his leg there, and they wound up, saving his life, but he was, in the hospital for a very long time, and he almost bled to death. But anyhow, so make sure that you do not do any cutting towards these areas here. You always cut away from yourself, just like one of the previous rules, always cut away. Never cut, never use this as a cutting board or anything like that. Avoid cutting around this region here. Rule number 7 is to make sure you always have a first aid kit anytime you're using a knife. anytime you're out in the field, because like they say, you know, if you play with fire long enough, you get burned. Well, if you play with a knife long enough, you're going to get cut. It's just the fact of the matter. So always make sure you have a first aid kit and you know how to treat minor injuries. Another thing that go along with that, you know, just in knife use in general, is do try out sticks like Morse Kahansky talks about in the book Bushcraft, and you know, just be very safe and make sure you're not using your knife while you're tired. You know, and I know in a survival situation you really can't, you know, do that. You're gonna have to use it while you're tired and stuff like that. But to make sure you're not using it while you're tired and stuff like that, because those are times that accidents do most commonly occur. So hopefully this helps you, you know, any of you guys with beginners, or any of you guys that needed a reminder and kind of re-emphasis on safety, and you know, a couple techniques to use while you know, doing some bushcrafting. But hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure you subscribe to our channel. We put out a few new videos every week, and I'm sure there's going to be something that you like. And as always, thanks for watching.